Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Tiger Minor Report recap here at the TigersMLReport.com. I am Rogelio Castillo. Alongside me will be Brandon Day, and Chris Brown shortly, as the Tigers came back against the Marlins and won 6-5. Spencer Torkelson home run in the 8th inning, as it's his second home run in the last 2 days, his first 2 home runs of the season. This one was a no-doubter, a 446-foot blast, as I believe that is the longest home run of his career. And as Jake Coleman said, excuse me, Ryan Valverde died for our sins. He healed Torque and Foley, and that's totally the case. The Foley, by the way, was hitting 96, 97. People were freaking out over the fact that his velocity was down a little bit, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, people were becoming arm doctors and saying something's wrong, and in reality, he was fine. And alongside me is Brandon Day. Brandon, how you doing, sir?
Not too bad. I was one of those freaking out a little bit. Never like to see Foley throw a 95, 96. You know, it's not a good feeling, especially when a lot of other things are going wrong. So yeah, that was nice to see for sure.
Yeah,
and that had to feel good for Torkelson.
Oh yeah, no, look, and here's the thing: a lot of the haters aside, like I know we wrote an article about what possible replacements, and yesterday I wrote an article on MCB talking about the bat speed, how he's above average, and there were some signs because his pop-ups are down from April significantly, so the pop-ups were already coming down.
Yep.
And that felt good, especially against. You should be a team like the Marlins. The Marlins are one of the worst teams in the National League, and that's what you should be doing. You should be beating crappy teams like the Marlins.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, after that Astros series, you didn't want to come out and get walloped by the Marlins. Would not be a good look at all. But the Tigers have this kind of tendency to play to their competition. Like if the Yankees beat up on them, but if they went and played the Dodgers right now, they'd probably play a better game. Whether they'd win anymore, who can say? But there's a little bit of that playing to the competition thing that seems to go on with them. So good to see Foley back in form. Yeah, good to see. Torkelson this whole time hasn't really chased that much or looked like he's expanding the zone. Particularly, it's just timing. Just shot the hell on fastball still. So yeah, if you guys want to throw him some hangers for a while and get him cruising, that would be helpful. Feel free.
Yeah, no, please do. I mean, please go ahead and start throwing them in the hangers and do. Those are fine. I mean, if you want to have a bad breaking ball or a changeup that doesn't do anything, just fumbles towards right in the middle of the zone, by all means, go for it. Hey, that's cool.
Yeah,
Tigers will take advantage of it.
Lollipop those things in there.
Yeah, and not to mention too. I mean, he also only had 2 swords, which is part of the bat speed. We'll talk about bat speed too. We'll talk about that new category a little bit to explain it.
Yeah,
for everybody. Yeah, Chris should be here, by the way, momentarily. I think he's probably running a little late. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to us on YouTube at Tigers ML Report. Just hit 1,700 followers. So our goal would be 5,000. I mean, if look, right now we're at 1,700. That's awesome, but I want more. We want more. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Tigers Minor League Report. If you donate to our Patreon, just like our fine folks like Dan Fernandez and a couple other people last week, we have a PayPal link that I will be putting on the screen right here in a second. So there's and of course, you want to super chat us for a couple bucks. All that goes back to the website. We really appreciate it. Our top 30 will be out this week as we are deciding who will be the new number 1 prospect. And we have a couple other people that are going to be on our list for the first time. Maybe some returning. Maybe a Gage Workman appearance again. Who knows?
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that Jaden Hamm was going to be in our top 30. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But where is the question? So we just have to figure that part out, and we're doing that right now. So a couple good ways to donate. And so to answer your question, Tyler, this is the Norwich Sea Unicorns. And that was the old Connecticut Tigers team. They converted themselves to Norwich, and then they never played a game. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Brandon.
They sent me a Norwich Sea Unicorn. Actually, this is legitimately
Really?
like the Beanie Baby they gave out. yeah.
No kidding. Wow, I didn't even get that. That's awesome. That's pretty sweet. Yeah. So
I can't remember who gave that to me. I'd say thank you, but it was like 8 years ago. It feels like.
It was set to play in the 2020 season. Of course, the 2020 season was canceled, and then the following season they said short A ball, bye. So this was a team that was the old Connecticut Tigers, and so I got this hat relatively inexpensively. So it's I have a series of Tiger minor league defunct minor league teams. It's like a whole row.
There is a list, yeah. So, yeah, from here too, I couldn't really tell that was a unicorn. It kind of looks like a Deadly Ninja Bees hat, just based on the colors. It's like a Deadly Ninja Bees send you that in the chat.
Yeah, if Deadly Ninja Bees, if I bet you $5, Deadly Ninja Bees is such a ninja that if he or she, because it could be she, could walk up to me in person and say hi and wouldn't know who that was. And that's the kind of I think that's the kind of interaction that I would have Deadly Ninja Bees would be. He or she would say, "Hey, how you doing? I like your podcast. Cool, what's your name?" And then just walk away like a ninja, like Batman the animated series.
You'd recognize them by the colors, though. But there's the legend himself in the chat, or herself in the chat, needing merch. It's true. You should get on that. Start a little store for yourself.
Yeah, no, there's a what should we call it? Or oops, there's a people are asking. Somebody's asking me, like, I want that hat. Well,
it is a cool hat.
It is a cool hat, but yeah, you can. I mean, if there's any out there, rather, it's on eBay or I don't know. They still. I don't think I know if they have a collegiate team, so they might still. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, well, getting back to the Tigers game, key takeaways. I know you're the Matt Manning train conductor, but that was some bad sequencing with that curveball, Brandon. I mean, what was that all about?
I gotta admit, I didn't even watch the game, bro. Okay. I came in the eighth inning, but I have to admit, I left the Matt Manning train last year because I was just like, dude, it's been too long. Like, I need a slider or a cutter. There has to be a good breaking ball in this mix. The curveball doesn't do it, and he just has not figured out how to throw that pitch. And I need to see 96, 97 all the time. I don't know what's going on, but he knows he's going out there 5 innings. I want to see him air it out. And I don't know if the Tigers agree. Maybe the Tigers are fine with it. Like, yeah, just sit 92, 93, rear back when you need something. But it's just never going to work that way for him. I mean, he's going to have to be a fastball forward pitcher, and he's just got to light it up. And the only way to throw harder more consistently is to keep doing it, and he just goddamn won't. So I don't know. It's just been too many years. Anyway, you struck a chord there because I left the I abandoned my conductorship last year and switched over to Kiter Montero. So I was like, I'm done. It's been too many years, man. I hung in there all this time. You just start to wonder about the aptitude for like picking certain things up because it just hasn't gotten better that much. The slider is better than it was 2 or 3 years ago, but it's still not a very good slider. He's not that consistent with it, and so he's just pumping fastballs at people. And unless you're 96, 97 with that extension, you're not going to blow people away or anything. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Matt had I'm sorry. Matt had a chance. Matt had a chance to establish himself with this run he's going to get the next 3 or 4 starts while Maeda's out, and he's got to do it. Because otherwise, he's kind of like a nicer Mike Pelfrey, really, in a certain sense. So
Stan with the 1999. Thank you, Stan.
Exquisite.
I know he's more. I know he's a fan of this.
Off the Frickers building.
So
is that Colt Keith off the Frickers building? Probably.
That was it was Colt Keith.
Yeah.
It was Colt Keith.
Off the Frickers building.
It never gets old. Never gets old. No.
Now the video of that home run never gets old either. It's a blast.
Hey Chris, how you doing?
Not bad. Sorry, I'm late. I was putting Harrison in bed.
Oh, that's right.
Stan, thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did Harrison get to see the end of that game?
He didn't watch tonight's, but we went to the game yesterday. He got to see Torkelson's
cool.
first home run of the year, and they were sitting right down in the right field corner, so they got to see Badu's triple as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
No, but getting back to what you're saying, Brandon, real quick. Chris, we're just talking about Matt Manning's curveball, and Chris was there when we heard Jim Lewin swearing, "Oh, he's doing throw that fastball. He's not throwing that slider." I mean, it was him, complaining out loud to a bunch of scouts right in front of us. Like Chris and I were just sitting there, and he's just like, "Yeah, who he was with the former USC pitching coordinator guy, Dan."
Oh boy, yeah, I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
I don't know.
That dude. Remember that guy that was from USC, Brandon, that came in the pitching?
He was the head coach at USC, and then lost that job, and then became their pitching coordinator. But I've forgotten his name.
Yeah, it was only for like 2010 or 2020.
No, it was like recently.
Yeah. No, it was like a 1-year thing.
Yeah, damn, I can't remember that guy's name. Hubs.
Okay, so it was Hubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, sorry, Mr. Hubs, but it was a brief tour. He was only here, I think, in 2020.
Yeah, it was only a brief tour. It definitely was. He wasn't here that long. And I remember when he got let go, it was no one ever said anything. It was just like,
yeah. And
then they brought in Rivas, and it went away from there. No, Winfield Perez, I think, is real. He has another multi-hit game. I believe that's his fourth. It says being called up. I have to double check that real quick, but Winfield Perez batting third, and he continues to be just getting the ball on base and just there was a interesting. Let's see here. It's actually it is. Wow, that is his. I'm sorry, that's his fifth.
Yeah.
Count. Or I'm sorry, fifth. I'm sorry, six. Six.
I will say that I don't think Winfield Perez is a true talent 150 WRC plus player at the big league level, but so I think there is a little bit of hot newness going on now. But I think it tells you a lot that Hinch pretty immediately put him in the number 3 hole in the lineup fairly regularly.
Yeah.
In Hinch, part of that is Hinch loves having switch hitters and loves forcing the other manager's hand to mess with his pitching staff. But I mean, the bat to ball skills are real. The power is always, you never know like how many home runs he's going to hit, but it's certainly extra base power, and the speed is good. So, and honestly, he's looked pretty good at in center field. Like he's not Parker Meadows out there, but he's not falling all over himself. And so I think he's up for a while, and unless he goes in like a terrible 2 for 80 slump, I think he's going to stick around.
Yeah, I mean, the Tigers obviously are super big on the control the strike zone thing, which leads you to think about walks. But they need some guys who just put the damn bat on the ball too. Like there has to be some kind of mix. We've seen so many of them kind of get abused on the outer edge of the strike zone this year by pitches off because, I mean, they're conditioned to take a lot of pitches. But if you can't, sort of adjust and take some of those pitches the other way, I mean, obviously they're just living on the outer edge against Torkelson, and he's not going to right field very much. Wenzel can kind of spray it around, and I mean, he's going to put the ball in play and run. And I have to say his instincts in center field have kind of surprised me. After all those years watching them try to figure it out with him as an infielder, you start to kind of get down on the whole player defensively. But his skills fit, playing in center field. Just run and go get it, just catch the ball. And he's been doing that pretty instinctively, despite pretty limited experience so far. So Hinch has got to be happy. I mean, they needed something. We're always joking about the spark plug guy in the BYB chat, because everybody gets excited every time some light hitting utility infielder or something does anything. But Wenzel, I think, is more than that. I certainly probably would agree with Chris that he's probably, long-term like a bench piece, but he might be a really good bench piece, a really useful player who can do a lot of different things. Maybe a little bit of like sort of what you hoped Badu could be. Not as much raw power, obviously, but similar skills in other respects, and just puts the ball in play a little bit more. I'll be happy when he's 6th or 7th in the lineup, and you're using him to kind of drop down bunts and do hit and runs and sacrifices with him. He's kind of suited to some of those things late in games. So he's definitely been a nice little spark. And I mean, I think for all of us, like you just see him play all these years, you kind of fall in love with the kid a little bit. He's just a very likable guy. So yeah, it's been super fun to see him doing well, and he's kind of carving himself out a little niche, I think, for sure.
I think the biggest takeaway and Chris and I have talked about this too, his arm range in the outfield too is better than we anticipated. I mean, we saw a couple of throws last year in Erie where it was just like, holy damn, where the hell did that come from? But you knew that he had the range, but it was like the Chuck Knobloch mental thing in the infield where it was just like, he just, for whatever reason, he just kind of had the yips with that. But there is, I mean, am I a believer that Perez is going to be an effective major league player? Sure. Is he going to be a regular all-star? No, maybe not. But I mean, at the same time, you have to kind of look at this from a perspective. In August to September, he's still doing this. Then yeah, there's something to be said about that, because then by then the league is caught up, and if he's adjusted to the league, that's the biggest thing. That's where outside of, you look at outside Nick Castellanos, and of course Riley Green now, Kerry Carpenter also comes to mind too. You're hoping that the Tigers now can just have a guy who can, after the league figures out everything or he figures out the league, that they can just get a regular contributor that can at least be a 2-war player. I mean, that's where I think, if you think about, everybody talks about Brandon Bosch but that didn't last too long. No offense to Andy Dirks, but that didn't last too long. It's like there's just these things where you want this to be just not a year and a half thing or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you want this to be sustainable and consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. And Andy Dirks, I was probably more the neck injuries than anything. And Brendan Bosch never really had, I don't think anybody like super seriously thought he had the skills. You were hoping that it would come together, but there was still like a really limited profile. And yeah, Wenzel's just a really different player than that. He's probably going to be light hitting, but he can hit a lot of different type of pitchers. He's actually not bad at all, hitting right-handed. So, all the power basically is left-handed against right-handed pitching, but, he can kind of do it all for you. We'd like to see versatility. Like, the one weird thing about this roster is that for all the, the mix and matching that they're trying to do, there are things about that roster that are just not very flexible. And some of it comes from the utility guys not having options in certain cases, or just not having sort of complementary skills in terms of who you'd match them up against. So, I don't know, when we start thinking about like what Scott Harris can do to improve this lineup without doing anything big, it's sort of that like tinkering type stuff, where like maybe you could replace Zach McKinstry with a better defensive shortstop who, hits to any capacity, those kind of things. Wenzel can certainly be a part of that, because he can do a lot of different things for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do, and hopefully maybe one day you can play the infield again. I mean, that would be ideal.
Yeah. I mean, that would be, I don't know. It's one of those things where like, boy, that would make him a lot more useful, but also like, why mess with it right now? Yeah. I think what we'll see, what he's proven right now is that he's kind of a tough out. And so what you're going to see is that they will eventually drill down where his weaknesses are and then start attacking those. And we'll see if he can cover those. Because with guys who aren't necessarily, tearing the world, like setting the world on fire, like Colt Keith right now, I don't know if they're really, the opposing teams are really game planning around Colt Keith. And they look at him and go, all right, just don't throw the ball here. So yeah, we'll see. I like I said, he's not a 150 WRC plus player, but if he could be anything from 110 to 130, that'd be amazing. So we'll just have to wait and see. But for right now, he's been a bit of a godsend for the team.
Yeah. And and they do advanced scout a lot more in the minor league. So maybe those adjustments happen faster. Yeah. Maybe they're already happening. That would be a good sign. But yeah, we'll have to see. You definitely have to let it play out a little bit longer for sure. But it's been super fun so far. It's been really nice to see him doing well.
So real quick, Deadly Ninja Bees want to talk about the third base coach. There was a couple of comments that came in. Does Carlos? We had one from Lodia Marte. Is Carlos Pena still playing as a pitcher? He's actually
in Erie.
He's in Erie right now. He's in Double A Erie, and will he make the Major League Baseball? Make the major leagues one day? I mean, anything's possible, but I assume if he does, it's more like a reliever, just because he has to get some velocity going. But I mean, if you give him teams to miss bats, I don't see why not. But it's a long. To be honest, it's kind of a long shot. But the YouTube user wants to know: is it Gage Workman that ditched the swing hitch and doing pretty well? Well, when I wrote about it originally on May 3rd, because I mean, there was somebody who wrote an article about it today that came out on a paywall that
I
basically
believe it was the news.
Or the Detroit News, who basically said the same thing I said 2 weeks ago. But whatever. What do I know? I'm not watching the game or anything. Basically, has been talked to Gabe Alvarez. We talked to Greg Yanya, who Gage was talking about. He's been working on his toe tapping, working on his footwork, and it's been a thing of progress. And we talked about this last year too, where this has been going on for a while now, and he's finally perfected it. So. I mean, it's nice wherever you're writing from Georgia or whatever, and you can chime in and say things like that and do things and not cite sources or anything. That's cool, but whatever. What do I know though? I'm just a lowly baseball writer, but who doesn't? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's where Gage Workman's been working on this for a while now. It's a work in progress. I mean, the Oregon him were going back and forth on his swing. He finally stopped batting on the other side of the plate, and it's been strictly lefty, and the work is paying off. So
yeah, that is helping for sure. It just looks a lot quieter. I mean, you guys kind of tapped into already like the actual details of it, but he's just really simplified and quieted things down. His head's he's not taking a kick anymore, and it's working. I don't know if it's going to keep working, but god damn, I really hope so. that would really be a lifesaver for the Tigers. Even if he just can hit right-handed pitching and play shortstop, at least then you've got an option and you could. Yeah, I mean, obviously Lynn went into this, but we've talked about this a long time already. That I mean,
we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
when we talked about it originally.
I mean, Ryan Kreidler's not an answer, but Ryan Kreidler and Gage Workman, that might be workable at least for a little while.
Even Andrew Navigato. I mean, some of the batting, even the advanced data on Navigato is not bad. I don't know, Chris. What were you gonna say?
Oh well, yeah. With Navigato and with Workman to a slightly lesser extent, they are capable of playing shortstop, but it's not. I don't know. Like when you watch them, they're just a few too many misplays.
Mm-hmm.
Not even necessarily errors, but just plays where they're just moving too fast for their own good. I still think Workman works best as a third baseman. I think you could fill in at shortstop. He's certainly a very athletic guy. He's above average to plus runner, has a lot of raw power. There's a lot to like there. I don't look at him as I think Kreidler's a legit shortstop. Kreidler's also better at third base, but he's a legit, I think, big league shortstop. I don't know if Workman is, but I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. I didn't think we'd ever get a chance to find out because he was rocking a 40% strikeout rate.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's year 3 in Erie. You don't want to overblow it. The pitching in the minor leagues isn't great, but some of that is kind of, I don't know, opponent invariant, if you will. Like he's not chasing, he's walking, he's not swinging, missing as much. Some of those changes seem to be real. So at least, you cross your fingers and hope it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if he's a 5-tool guy, I mean, there's speed to him. He can hit the ball hard, but not 5-tool. There's maybe
this is. I mean,
it's always that damn hit tool, guys.
It is. We gotta worry about that hit tool. 5-tool guys hit 370 in AA.
Yeah.
And they do in their first year, not their third year. Yeah. So, by the way, thank you, Joe Hill, for the $10.
Thank you, Joe.
Exquisite.
Mm-hmm. And also,
that ball is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Such a all-time
for Joe Hill there. So Joe wants to know. We have two pitching questions. We got one from him and Stan, and he says, "Thanks for all the work you guys do. Also, so happy for Torque, but I saw someone compare Jackson Jobe to Garrett Cole. Would you guys agree?" Well, let's answer Stan's question first because we're gonna start going into Toledo here. His question is, after Manning, who's the next best Toledo starter, Montero or Hurdler? That's a very good question because Montero has been struggling as of late, but their pitch mix, he has 4 or 5 pitches he can go with.
Yeah,
his stuff his spin rate's pretty good. His just command is a little iffy, but I'm gonna go with Montero. That's my gut. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, Brandon. Yeah, I would say if it was like who's getting called up, it would be Montero because he's on the 40-man. But I do think like it would depend on the opponent there.
Yeah.
Herder's a lefty, Montero's a righty. If they thought the matchup was better, they might go to Herder. I'm still kind of in the reliever bucket with both of those guys. But yeah, they're both pretty solid options. As Raj mentioned, like Montero's last couple outings have been kind of rough, particularly with strike throwing. And so you don't know if there's something going on there. He has a tendency occasionally to kind of get out of himself, and you see him like spin off the mound a little bit more. And when he's under control, he throws a lot of strikes, and he's usually pretty good. Herder is he also has his bouts of wildness, but they usually result in hitting people. And when his command is on, it's like legit average big league command. He's working the fastball to both sides of the plate. He can get the slider under the hands of righties and backdoor it. And I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. It's a good problem to have. I think those are two solid arms for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely comes down to like who the opponent is, but I would agree that like Herder is the one that you could bring up and feel like comfortable that he's going to probably give you 4 or 5 innings, whereas Montero might pitch great and be like super effectively wild and just throwing great stuff all over the place, but without that much command, or he might just melt down and not be able to get out of an inning somewhere and early on, and that's a wrap. Montero I think he's only given up 1 home run, and he does have a 30% strikeout rate this year. So he's been carving people up, but yeah, there's still a lot of refinement that needs to go on there. I might actually, of the two of them, I mean, it all comes down to the 40 man. Well, it all comes down to the 40 man, but I'm if I was going to pick a Toledo starter, I might pick Ty Madden right now, even though his first outing at Toledo was not that good.
Yeah,
Ty Madden's looked really good to me this year. I'm not 100% sure he's got the split change figured out the way Job does, but he's definitely been doing better against lefties, and that's all he ever needed to do, because you put him out there against right-handers, he's going to tear him up for the most part. So yeah, they've got some options brewing, and it'll kind of be a contest probably over the next month or so to see who kind of works their way into position to be the next. So yeah, that should be fun to watch.
Especially Madden's been pitching better as of late too. He's trying to figure out
his fastball's popping now.
Yeah,
much better life. Yeah.
Yeah, especially it rides in the right action on lefties is much better than it was even from a year ago, where he started kind of figuring that out against lefties too. So it will be interesting to me between him, Montero, and Hurler, because Hurler had a really good start too, where he's been walking a little less. Is where how they're going to do it like in a neutral park that's not Fifth Third, because I look at some of the other stadiums in the International League, and that's where it's like just. For example, like every time he's like, I remember when Cole Keith hit that home run in Columbus. I mean, that was not a cheapie. I mean, it's like one of those things.
473 feet.
Yeah, 473 feet. And I know that in the minor leagues, those kind of factors are perhaps not played into it so much per se than you see in the major league level. But the reason why I mentioned that too is because it gives each pitcher kind of an equal footing. Because I look at Fifth Third, and maybe because of the way the dimensions are on left. I mean, I know Hurler's a lefty, but still, it's just, I don't know. Like I think in a neutral park or in a different park that's not home, it gives you to see how they react on the road versus just something to be at home with that being said. So,
I'd like to see Herder against Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Force Jose Ramirez to bat right-handed, get him against, because he's just murder on lefties. They don't do anything against him. So, but
put your best infield out there and turn him loose.
Yeah. And so the next question that was from Joe Hill, that was a $10 question. Again, thank you, Joe, for the donation. We appreciate it. Joe to Garrett Cole comparison. Would you think
that is a $10 question?
Yeah.
That's a tough question. I mean, I think there's a lot of like hard throwing right-handers with good four-seamers, kind of overhand guys with ride and nasty spin rates that you could probably kind of compare him to. I'm not really sure Cole is the one. Like Job's got the split change now. That's one of his better pitches. And he's got a cutter that's a really good pitch. Like Garrett Cole is going to just blaze four-seamers at you, and then it's slider curveball. And so in a certain sense, he's a little bit more like a Justin Verlander style, at least in terms of the stuff he's throwing, whereas Job is a little bit more complicated mix. There's still a lot of similarities. I see a lot of similarities between Job and Justin Verlander in their delivery, and especially as they've been working with him and trying to get better extension, trying to let him, trying to get him to use his front leg and resist better. more and more he starts to look a little bit Verlandery. And I never want to make that comparison. But yeah, I kind of like him more as a Justin Verlander than a Garrett Cole. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in any comparison we make,
We'll take
it's going to be unfair.
Yeah.
But I mean, it truly is top of the rotation, ace level stuff. And we think that he's eventually going to, stay healthy. He's eventually going to figure it out at the big league level, and it's going to be pretty fun to watch. I go to like Zach Wheeler. Who has Wheeler has like 6 legit pitches though. But he's got I think he's got a split change this year, and he's got a slider and the fastball. I don't know if there's like you said, there's a lot of hard throwing righties out there. You say Dylan Cease if you wanted to. I don't know.
You could say a lot harder throwing like Jack Flaherty right now in terms of like having like the 2 breaking balls and shaping them the way Flaherty does, but then Flaherty kind of tops out 96, 97, whereas Job might top out 100 plus with more ride.
And Flaherty does not have that changeup. I mean, Job's changeup is a legit weapon. It's tough to make any kind of comparisons. It would be nice for him to come up and pitch in the big leagues and go ahead and win a Cy Young, and then you can compare other people to Jackson Job.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked in our internal chat. We were like, I don't know if we were bringing who it was. Maybe it was me that brought up Jose Fernandez. Is like, it might be kind of fun. But Jose was. By the time Jose was Jackson Job's age, he already had like 200 innings at the big league level and a 2.5 ERA. I mean, he was generational.
A couple home runs probably too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's not forget too that I mean, Garrett Cole, even when he was with Pittsburgh, he wasn't becoming the Garrett Cole until he got to Houston. Yeah, not till Houston, because he was. You look at his K per 9 until right around his K per 9 was like 7.5, 8. It started getting better. But even in the minors, he wasn't a K guy. He wasn't a big strikeout guy, and
he wasn't at UCLA either.
Yeah. No. So thank you, Houston, for all that, for what he's been able to become since. So I don't know. That's
thank you, Pirates. Thank you.
Pirates. Thank you, Pirates.
Tyler Glasnow and Garrett Cole, you idiots.
Yeah. Well, it's the same. This is the same organization. Like, here's Paul Skeens. 4 innings. Well,
I think the Tigers do the same thing with Paul Skeens.
These are not your daddy's Pirates anymore. Like, they figured it out now, but my God, when they were teaching, it was like they were badgering Garrett Cole and Tyler Glasnow to throw sinkers, and you just want to like choke somebody out.
Yeah. You had Tyler. I forgot about the Tyler Glasnow. You had Tyler Glasnow in your rotation at one point in time. Yeah. This
Jamison Talion. I mean,
it goes on and on. I mean,
they've
essentially been the feeder system for the Yankees for the last decade, essentially.
Yeah.
It's like
the Rays and the Astros, like the 3 top feeders.
Mm-hmm. As far as in terms of like somebody's asking, the YouTube asking when a prospect list is coming out, probably later this week. We're going to start the process. But there's going to be, so Parker Meadows is off the list. Colt Keefe's going to be off the list. We're going to throw Wenzel Perez off the list because, quite frankly, I think he's not going to come back down. I mean, it's just
the only reason not to do that is to avoid the Kreidler jinx, because we took Kreidler off the list like 4 lists ago because we're like, he's going to play enough this year, and then he hasn't. He's been injured, but I mean, I think just to get another name on there, it's fine. I think Wenzel is. I don't know how many more at bats he needs, probably like 80, but or 50 or so. I don't know, somewhere in that range, and or service time. But he's going to get them there. Yeah, he's going to be playing regularly.
Yeah.
So now and then, we can tell you Jaden Hamm's going to be on the list. And like I mentioned earlier, Jaden Hamm will probably be on there. Maybe a Ben Lee appearance. Maybe Gage Workman comes back on the list. I don't know. Well, we're gonna decide that. But
Rainer Castillo.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Who got me? It was funny because Chris and I the other day we were watching the Phillies Tigers feed on the FSL, and I'm like, good Lord. Chris is like, Rainer Castillo eat somebody or something? Like, it was just like this. He looked like Michael Pena. I mean, he's just like a massive dude. He just looked huge. Because the last time I saw him, skinny little thing, he just.
Well, we can a little Brustar Gratterall out there a little bit. Yeah,
we can touch on him when we get to the FCL or whatever. But I kind of forgot about him. Is another 19-year-old interesting arm? So
let's start with Toledo. Let's go look at Toledo real quick here. As Young was banged up a little bit, so he didn't get as many at bats. He had a home run though, 2 doubles and a pair of RBIs. Malloy was Well, did they say what his injury was? Was it just like a lower leg injury or something, or
Yeah,
I
lower
didn't-
body.
Is it okay? So
are
yeah,
they
I
doing
don't.
the Red Wing? Are they doing the Red Wings thing where they're just being vague about injuries now?
It seems like it. Yeah, unless it's like a very specific diagnosis, like hamstring. If it's just some strain or something, it seems like maybe they're not telling you what it is exactly.
Honestly, I didn't hear anything, so I was just kind of assuming that maybe Young has what Malloy had. Think maybe too much chili from Tony Paco's, maybe something. But
How dare you? Tony
I-
Paco's never hurt anyone.
no, right? But too much anything is. Yeah, I don't think there's anything because I don't remember any in-game injuries happening to either of those guys. So I'm thinking maybe illness, maybe just a tweak, but nobody's on the IL yet, as far as I have seen.
Yeah, there's been there's also sort of funky virus too. Like I think I was hearing the Buttons talk about this, or it was Erie it was in Erie where Richmond had the whole entire clubhouse was sick. It's been going around in some of these minor league teams where entire clubhouses are getting wiped out by some sort of funky virus.
Oh yeah. Well, and then we have Wenzel, and now whatever happened to Kenta Maeda. I mean, Commandus inflammatus or something. I'm not 100% sure how legit all of that is, but kind of weird.
Yeah, it's I don't no sir, I don't like it. As a quote would say, there's certain things that you're just kind of you don't realize. You think to yourself well, hey, you know what? Maybe you look at where you think of how clean an environment is and everything, and it's it's never ever clean enough. But anyway, moving on. Justice Bigby continuing to hit the ball pretty well. Some of the exit velocity numbers are really good too, as well on the back end. Dylan Diggler, another good week where he is hitting the ball with power, hit a couple home runs. And Navigato, I had to bring him up because his OPS is high. We have a listener on. We have a podcast listener, Jason, who is a big Andrew Navigato fan. He doesn't think we talk about him enough. And Navigato was having a really good year last year before he got injured, and the numbers have indicated pretty well. Also behind the scenes numbers too. And yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, is he going to be a call for the Tigers? I don't know. I mean, it just feels like a future Oakland A player at some point because it just seems like a kind of guy that would end up in Oakland. But Carlos Mendoza, who was the player of the week in Erie, got the call up to AAA Toledo, and his TikTok. So somebody was, I think it was Tigers Turmoil, was telling me his TikToks got a million. He's some TikToks are over 1 million views. He's
really
huge on TikTok.
Oh wow.
He's
challenging Max Clark's crown.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and him and Roberto Campos both. There's a lot of clubhouse stuff on TikTok. Apparently, I went down a TikTok rabbit hole today, and I was telling Chris earlier, I'm like, we gotta sound like a crazed man. We gotta go on TikTok because we do have a TikTok account. I just never post it because I'm lazy. I just never had the time to. And anyway, but other than that,
it just gets to where there's too many accounts. Yeah, I mean, there's just too many things to try to keep up with and do well. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, either we do this very well in the writing part, or we do TikTok very well. And I think people would rather have us do this part well versus the TikTok part really well. And that's why we have interns. But Brent Hurler, another good start from him. 5 innings, 1 hit, 3 runs, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts. And Ty Madden walks aside, so strikeouts. And the Wilmer Flores, somebody, by the way, Navigato was Cody's pick. Cody Saberhagen's sneaky pick for a call up at some point this season. I could see that because he's a very good org guy. The org really loves him a lot too. But get back to Wilmer Flores, huh?
Kind of Buddy Kennedy-ish. Excuse me. Buddy Kennedy-ish.
Buddy Kennedy-ish. Okay.
And he has posted, I mean, I've seen, 107, 106 off the bat plenty of times from him.
Mm-hmm.
He does have, at least average raw power, maybe a little more. So yeah, you never know. He's like one of those guys who I just he always seems solid to me, but no one ever talked about him. And I really didn't pay him that much attention until last year either.
Yeah. Yeah. We consider guys like him and Mendoza and Holton, Jake Holton, very good sort of org guys that if something, a number of injuries hit, you're comfortable bringing them up for a handful of games, I think, but not necessarily future prospects, if that makes sense.
Like the kind of guys who get put on the 40 and called up and then DFA'd because you need that 40 spot. But they're useful for a spell sometimes like that. Yeah.
Yeah. They be on the top 50 prospect list maybe, but not top 30.
Yeah. No, and like I said, Navigado has been a guy who last year is when he went down. Gabe Alvarez mentioned the impact of him not being around. Greg Gagne mentioned that too, and so he's been doing a pretty good job. And it would be nice to see. It'd be a good story to see, especially for a guy who I think he's at Oklahoma. Wait, you know what? Now I just realized why. It just dawned on me why
he went to Oklahoma State. Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. That makes a lot of sense, and that's where Cody went. So, Cody. By the way, say what?
I think he was a 21st round pick.
20th round. 20th. So, but that'd be funny because then by the way, Cody's a hell of a shortstop on our softball team. So,
nice.
It's good range. Yeah.
I figured he was scrappy at least. Kind of gives me more catcher vibes.
I would have gone second baseman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Wilmer Flores had a weird pair of outings. Like on Thursday, he had like the best outing he's had all year. He's like pumping 99 and had it under control. And all of a sudden, I was like, "Oh, there it is." And then, Sunday it went right back in the toilet, unfortunately, and he was throwing it all over the place. But baby steps, I guess. That damn automated strike zone, guys. It's just messing with you, messing with Ty Madden, messing with Flores. Yeah, a little getting used to there.
That strike zone, by the way, one of the worst strike zones I've seen so far has been in AA. I don't know what the hell they were seeing down there. It is bizarre to me.
Some of those Job walks have been hilarious.
Yeah.
Like clustered right in the middle of the box, and they're all green. Like what are you doing?
Well, that's I think the famous story about Clayton Kershaw is that the umpires in the low levels of the minors could not call his breaking balls for strikes because they just couldn't it was too much for them. Like I don't know. That's a ball. Like no, that's very clearly a strike.
Scanners on their brains would explode. Like just
Yep. That curveball, man, it came out of the sky like I never saw it.
Yeah. His windup was pretty revolutionary for that time. But let's go on to Erie, who have won 7 in a row. They're now a half a game back out of first place behind Akron as they start against Harrisburg, who has some really good prospects, and that's a team that I love. I'm like every time last time they played Harrisburg, who was it? The outfielder. I'm trying to think of. Why am I drawing a blank all of a sudden? Wood. Yeah, the guy can put the wood on the ball. But
he had a monster week too up in AAA. He's very good. He's like
he just got called up last week, right?
I think he's been up at AAA all year.
I thought he started the season. I thought he was down in Harrisburg, or I thought he was in the beginning of the year down there, wasn't he?
I thought he was in. Well, I don't know. It's Rochester or wherever. But they have Dylan Cruz, who was the number 2 overall pick, and they have Robert Hassel and they have Brady House. So some interesting names down there for sure.
Yeah,
and that will be a test for the Erie starters, who, by the way, have put up a very, very impressive week as far as numbers are concerned. Richmond is not as good as they have been. The Giant system is a little, It's what was that? What was that, Chris? What was my sister?
That's a bad farm system. That's a bad team. That's a bad organization right now, and it wouldn't shock me if they're making changes, to leadership there soon.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They are, and so Richmond, by the way, the SeaWolves allowed just 2 earned runs in 29 innings of work, with Austin Berger getting a career high 11 strikeouts against them. Wilco Hernandez recorded the first quality start of the year, going 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. Melton continued to pitch better. It's a second straight start where he's just looked pretty dominant, efficient in the strike zone. Lockhart kind of being the ace down there, and Carlos Pena, who's in for Job, doing a hell of a job. But Trey Cruz woke up out of this mirrored slump and just went ape shit. 8 for 21, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. Hey, Lee, 2 home runs on Sunday. Mendoza was just called up from West Michigan, just went in there and just did his thing. And then same thing, Ben Maldier was a bat that's been really, really kind of off to a slow start, but the SeaWolves just feasted on bad Richmond pitching. So,
yeah, Mendoza was only there for 14 games or something, maybe two series and change. What did you guys think about that call up just in general? I mean, he's got tons of discipline and a little bit of speed and stuff, but he's not not like a future impact player? Is this just like kind of an Alvaro Gonzalez? Like he's been here for a while. He's 24. Let's just move him up and kind of just use him to fill in wherever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's going on there. It doesn't change my mind that it would be fun to see how he would do at the big league level. I remember watching him, and I don't know if it was at the end of the spring breakout game or if it was a couple games in spring, but he's a real pest in the batter's box, and he has a great approach, and he will take whatever the pitcher gets him and hit like a line drive the opposite way. And I think it might work at every level. It's just that there's not enough impact there. And he's versatile on defense, but I don't know if he's particularly great anywhere. He's both like a second baseman, left fielder. But yeah, I think they're just filling needs, and he's a guy that they can depend on because he's going to bring a professional approach to every plate appearance.
Yeah, him playing. I remember I think it was last year for Erie, or it was West Michigan, where he made a play at third, where he was just like, for his size and range, like he just threw as a cannon, just the ability to cover so much ground that he does so quick. I've watched him. I love watching him since he was in Lakeland. He's always hustling. You're right. Professional at bats, but the ability to play the infield and outfield effectively and not put your team in much harm is a rare thing. And so I believe his father played, right? I believe his case.
We couldn't ever nail down which Carlos Mendoza his father is.
A couple,
Although, what did we learned that his nickname? What was his nickname? It was like the Spanish word for gelatin, because he was so jiggly and like in the batter's box.
He never stopped moving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember off the top of my head right now, but yeah, that was that proper slang. It's slang more than proper Spanish, though.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to attempt it then.
Yeah, that's why
I'll look it up.
I stopped myself because I was like, well, wait a minute, like because there's Cuban slang, then there's Venezuelan slang, and I know nothing about Venezuelan slang, so
definitely different everywhere you go.
Yeah, the gelatina,
something like that.
So West Michigan also had a good week. They finished 4-2 against Fort Wayne. They are, somebody mentioned Luke Gold earlier. Luke Gold's still continuing. He has the best WRC+ in the system, as Chris points out here, and I almost call them Wes Anderson because I've been watching. That should be funny. Just do a prospect video like of Wes Anderson style video like that. Just a bunch of like minimalist stuff. Yeah. Anyway, but no, and we were talking about Campos. His ground ball rate continues to drop a little bit. He had a slower week than normal, but still, there's some encouraging things about Roberto Campos that you still should be excited about. The Pacheco experience is. I mean, hey, 5 walks, 5 strikeouts. That's a good week, right, Chris? I mean, that's the first time.
Yeah, he's showing some progress. It's still, as you put there, he still has the highest swinging strike rate in the organization right now. But it's last week was a solid week for him, and we'll take baby steps from Campos and Pacheco and Santana and any of those younger guys.
Yep, for sure.
And then the Peyton Graham, like somebody posted in our Discord some of the stats on
Hey, he had a solid week too. For him.
He did. Yeah. He did. He's frustrating me so much. So, oh well.
Yeah. But Jaden Hamm just at some point we're just I think we should do a bet. I think we'll do a bet, ladies and gentlemen, right now. Between people that are watching us on YouTube and Twitter, thank you for watching. Between you two guys. All right. So it is now. Today's date is May 13th. When will Jaden Hamm be in Erie? I think I'm going to go because it also, if Matt Manning stays up there's a couple things that factor in this, of course. But that being said, Brandon Day, what day are you going to say that Jaden Hamm's going to be in Erie?
May 19th.
Okay, I'm writing this down. May 19th.
1 week?
Yeah.
No.
May 19th. Brandon's putting down.
I think maybe he gets one more start and that's it.
Okay. Chris Brown.
Let me, I was just going to look to see if we're going to do this. Let's do this. So I'm going to see what date is his next scheduled start. Not the Jupiter Hammerheads.
That's what I was trying to figure out, but I just figured I'd just go with it.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say like Memorial Day weekend. Whatever.
Yeah.
whatever day that would be. So he started May 11th. So he started again the 17th, theoretically, 23rd. I don't know. Let's go May 30th.
May 30th. Okay. All right. May 30th.
That seems pretty good.
Don't even know if they play a game.
So, Brandon, I'm going to put you down for May 17th, technically.
All right.
I'll put you down for May 17th. Chris is the 30th. I am going to go in the middle ground. I'll take the 23rd. That's what I'll take. I will take. Yeah. So we all have our bases covered. So anybody who is watching us, by the way, Walter, good to see you here in the chat. If you think Jaden Hamm is going to be here by the end of May, please put a date in there. If not, if you think he's going to stay some time, but the numbers are just extraordinary. It's just like he's just not being challenged. 4 walks in 50 innings of work already or something like that.
It's I think it's 28 innings.
28. I'm sorry, I was looking at the strikeouts. I'm sorry, 43 strikeouts.
Yeah, it's over a 10-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, he certainly seems like he's deserving of a promotion. But whenever you have a promotion, there's an equivalent demotion, and sometimes there's not a great fit there. Like right now, I don't know who would they could send Pena down and send Hamm up, I guess, if they really wanted to do that. Once Job comes back, I don't know. They want to send Will Kell down. Like nobody in Erie is pitching all that poorly right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just a matter of when they think is best and when they find the opening. And I don't know. I don't think they care that much about the Whitecaps competing. And unless they go on a run, they probably won't anyway. But I think it's getting to the point where it's time for a new challenge. And I do think Double A will be a challenge for him because I think a lot of the breaking balls that he's kind of getting away with right now, he might not in Double A, at least at the beginning. And I think that'll be a good bit of like short-term failure for him to learn how to refine that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think lefties can hit that fastball perhaps at Double A much more effectively, and kind of force him onto the changeup too. So
I think
it just doesn't seem like he's got anything to learn at West Michigan. I mean, he's really just going out there and just hucking it by people. And I'm kind of partial to putting guys into uncomfortable situations once they look like they're ready, and he does. But yeah, I think you're right that he's not just gonna race right through it. He probably needs to refine the harder breaking ball. There's a lot of things he could work on. There just isn't much they've seen at West Michigan that can deal with even just the fastball alone, really.
Yeah, especially
and it's exciting. I think we're all, maybe we're kind of talking seriously, but I think we're all also like really stoked about Jaden Hamm for sure.
Yeah, and there was something we talked about this before too, where Jeff Pontus from Baseball America said that if he throws with a little more velocity, that he could see it working out on the major league level, and that could be the case where. And you'll see this happening in Double A. This happened a lot last year where we were talking to several prospects where you saw more instruction come in play in Erie. So they were learning new pitches. We saw Herder. We saw Sorry Gibson Long. Several examples of this. And so I really think that would be the case where if he gets to Erie, you're going to see that kind of where they're going to pull him aside and say, hey, look, this is going to especially he's really good at hitting the top of the zone. With his fastball, but it's going to get hammered, I think, a little bit in Double A. So, I mean, I think that's just a case of, or how can he be more effective against hitting the corners? I mean, he's doing a really good job with that right now, but
and sometimes it's like, is he the type of guy that you can teach all this stuff to without him like kind of having to take the beating to learn it? That might play into how fast they decide to move him up. If he's if he's just not really implementing what they want him to implement that specifically, maybe that's when you push him up and hopefully let him take his lumps and then you prove the point. But I don't know if that's the case, and I doubt that it is. I assume he's cruising right along according to their plan. So yeah. But yeah, there's plenty more to do, but the raw material is real good for sure.
So a couple questions that came in, and again, if you want to super chat us a question, that's the great super chat. Throws us a few bucks. That's great. There's also our PayPal link as well. One question comes in: does Gold actually have much prospect status with his age and being in ball? Did COVID mess up guys his age? Yeah, I mean, the Gold is a prospect. I mean, defensively, I think there's some liabilities there, but yeah, he's considered a prospect.
Yeah, he sort of has like a limited approach in a sense. Like you can see how in the upper levels they're going to have a lot easier time just figuring out how to pitch him because he's trying to pull everything in the air for the most part, and he can spray it around a bit, but that's he has a very specific bread and butter and doesn't do that much else well. So, I don't know if I see a big future, but he might be like a utility type, hitter someday, the type of dude, that Andy Ibanez is to some different fashion, something like that, where he fits into a manager's roles, but probably not an everyday player. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't worry about his age too much. He's 23 in high A. That's pretty close to average. I want to say it's like 22.8 or so. I don't know. Maybe it's even over 23. Yeah, I mean, I think your point, Brandon, is you'll see teams can get him out pretty easily by just throwing breaking balls low and away.
Yeah.
If you can execute that pitch, which most pitchers at AA level and above can, you're going to get him out right now. Now, can he make those adjustments? He may be able to. He was really struggling in low A last year before he turned it around, and he's got some pop. And to Roger's point, yeah, the defense is pretty rough wherever you play him. They've been playing him at first base. He's played some third base. He's played some outfield. A guy like that usually gets stuck in the outfield in the end run, or because the hands just aren't there. But yeah, like I don't know, we had him in the back end of our 30, and I feel like that's probably where he's going to stay in that general range. Like, and he's producing, so he's another guy who may eventually get that call up. But I don't know if there's a particular hurry with him. I don't know if he's a priority prospect, if you want to say something like that.
Yeah. It helped me, you guys might want to take this on, but I went to 35 instead of 30 prospects this year, and it really helped me because I got Hamm and Workman both still in there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Specifically, that's why I did it too. I was like, I got to have a couple of those guys. But
yeah, I think we like to go to either 35 or 40, and then that way we get everybody's top 35 or 40, and then you end up with, at least 30 that are mentioned by the plurality of the people doing lists, so you don't have to figure things out. But yeah, I don't know.
I think for now, 30 is. I think a 30 is a good, nice round number. I mean, 35 would be. Would be cool. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's we still rank the 30 or whatever, but you individual rankings go up to 40 or whatever, and then we come up with the top 30, based on the averages or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's plenty too. Yeah, I mean, it's it's a little bit arbitrary at the end of these things anyway. It's just like I got a couple guys there I like enough that I want to mention. So do I put them on my list, or do I put them on the 5 who didn't make the list? But it's all the same damn thing.
So, that's true. It's all it's all good analysis anyway. But the other question comes in for Bradley Davis. Do you guys understand why Graham has struggled so much at low A and high A? Watched him at Oklahoma, looked like a good hitter. I think really it's being healthy. I mean, he's had wrist issues since he's come over, and I think if you can't get your wrists and you're having problems with that, and that's usually how you generate your swing, who knows how long it is before he's healthy again with that. But that was one thing that I know Garco, I'm trying to paraphrase a little bit, what he talked about was when he's healthy, he can hit, but we don't know. Again, I'm not sure how healthy he is right now.
Yeah, and it was the oblique too last summer was what really knocked him out, I think, right? So yeah, so he hasn't had that much of a chance, but he's always had kind of a long swing. Like he was in college, he was able to organize that with his whole body and show, above average and maybe even scraping plus power. And for a really live like 6'2", shortstop who has like the athleticism and physicality to play shortstop, even though he's been kind of a mess throwing the ball and, plays out of his shoes a little bit too much and isn't very fundamentally sound in a lot of ways. I just think he has a really long swing. He's got pretty good plate discipline, zone discipline at least, but pitch recognition hasn't been that good. And he's got a long swing, and those guys tend to get eaten up by good breaking balls. And then, you add in the fact that he hasn't really gotten to play consistently. And that's kind of the whole thing. And I haven't totally given up on him, but I was hoping to see him put on some muscle and kind of swing the bat a little more quickly and aggressively. We can kind of talk about the bat speed situation with him with the StatCast where the first like actual scouting people I talked to years ago, bat speed was acceleration. It wasn't like what's your max bat speed versus how long the swing is. But there's some ratio in between there of like, how quickly can you accelerate, to your 95th percentile bat speed and get it to the zone to give you the time to make adjustments rather than starting your swing too early. And Graham's just a skinny dude who can organize himself really well against college pitching and just hasn't been able to, and maybe hasn't had enough opportunity. We'll see. But it's been pretty discouraging, I would have to say.
Yeah, I mean, it was a challenging assignment for him, even though he was a college guy. He didn't. It's not like he conquered low A last year. It was just like, time's a waste. Then you got to keep moving.
Yeah.
And I mean, you touched on. He's just not a very physical guy. Still, he's just kind of a beanpole, and like there's athleticism there for sure. And then I was going to mention, that the breaking ball recognition I think has always been an issue. Even go back to college, and I want to say as a junior he actually kind of switched his swing or stance and took off after that point. But I don't know. You don't give up on a guy. It's still only early May, mid-May, but it's been a tough couple weeks for him.
Yeah, and you're hoping that there's some signs of things to come. But by the way, the first week for Bennett Lee was here after really I think it was a week was it a week and a half in Lakeland tops, maybe?
Yeah, maybe that sounds about right.
Yeah, what did he do? He just showed up, hit a homer, and they were like, "Yeah, all right, he's good.
Yeah.
He's a Wake Forest kid. He'll be fine."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when we did our original minor league projections, we actually had him starting with West Michigan, but then he was on the injured list. So maybe that Lakeland was just kind of a, keep him in Lakeland to keep an eye on him, make sure he's healthy, and then bump him up to where we thought he belonged in the first place.
Yeah. It could be the case where Lakeland could have been even like a kind of a rehab for him too.
That's a good call.
So the Lakeland Flying Tigers are just cruising along. There's 5-1 against Daytona. And there's a name that we haven't mentioned in a while here that has been hitting the ball pretty well, Jose De La Cruz. Now, he's not walking, which is, so Chris, you want to explain what ICW
I invented a new acronym just for brevity's sake, but that's in zone whiff. That's how much they're swinging missing in the strike zone. League average is 20.9%, and he's actually only slightly above that. But and I only put that in there because the three guys below that are all kind of outstanding at that, and so I just wanted to mention that. But De La Cruz, he's been a name for a while. He tantalizes because he's got as much raw power as anybody in the system, but it's just like that. Knowing when not to swing seems to be an issue for him.
Yeah,
but he had a good week.
Is he 24 now or 23?
Maybe 23.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not even as old as I think he is. He just feels like he's been around too long.
Let's see.
He's been on the system since 20.
Let's see. Jose De La Cruz is 22 and 4 months.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. He's not even that old yet. Sorry, Jose.
Yeah, it's a college senior.
Yeah.
All right.
But when he lights into something, it's amazing. But yeah, there's just so much that has to be, still come along as far as the approach goes and stuff. But he's a fun minor league player to watch for sure.
Yeah. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, we'll get to Andrew Sears in a second. Yeah, we'll mention him because he did win an award. We mentioned that here in the slide too. But Brett Callahan's been hitting better as of late too. The last couple of weeks, he's been hitting the ball with power and making regular good contact through the zone. But Pasenio kind of figuring out the consistency side of things, and Max Clark, who, by the way, him and Joe both moved up in the MLB Pipeline top 100 list. And that is something that, that's something worth noting because I think Joe took the biggest jump, and I think Max Clark, I forgot where he landed. I think he's landed 13th on the list, maybe. I'm not 100%.
I think so, yeah.
Something like that, to that effect. But no, the Flying Tigers pitching, which has been, the bullpen's been kind of hit and miss. It's the starters that have been doing very well. Andrew Sears was named Florida State pitcher of the week, 5 innings, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, and that stands out because walks have been an issue across the Florida State League. Yeah. And the Miller brothers they're not brothers. I just saying that. In the zone. By the way, ICW is in the zone whiff.
And again, that is not official anything. I just used it because I wanted to.
I like it. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's like one of those things you want to know, and you have to go sift it out yourself somehow on StatCast when you actually want to know that. So I'd love to see that come up.
Not to mention, it's a stat that's based off the letter I. You don't see that very often.
Yeah,
And it mentions a Z.
Brown.
ISO.
Brownies. Something?
Brownies. What did we remember? We came up with Jerry last year. We came up with a stat called mango chutney. I forgot what it.
Yeah,
I forgot what it was. Oh.
There's the hymns. We have the hymn stat.
Oh, that's right. That was Jerry's. Yeah.
No, and yeah, we too on YouTube said there's too many stats to learn as it stands. No, you're right. There is a lot of stats out there. Just picking the ones that make sense to try to explain it. Like there was a comment last week on YouTube. We had a gentleman who watches our show. He used to be a writer in the 70s, and he said that he appreciates our show because we kind of go over the advanced stats and everything. And he had a really funny Spencer Torkelson story. But anyways, I thought it was funny because it's just trying. It is classic, and Walter said it best. Chris Brown slang.
Yeah.
Well, just you don't need to know, and we may never use it again. I just wanted to point out, like I said, like that's something that teams pay attention to a lot. If you're swinging and missing in the zone, that's trouble because teams will just get you out that way. They also worry about chase rate, but if you're making a lot of contact in the zone, that's pretty good. And McGonigal is elite. I think he's missed. I looked at it. He swung and missed at one pitch in the zone so far this year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
and Clark is damn near elite himself, and Briseño is very good too. So those three guys are kind of a nightmare at the top of the lineup there in low A. Still figuring out other parts of their game, but a real pain for pitchers down there.
Yeah, it's going to make you throw strikes and often put a hurting on it. So.
Yeah, and they are tied for the best run differential in the Florida State League too as well. So there's a lot to like about the Flying Tigers. And by the way, I think it was congratulations to their broadcaster who graduated from Syracuse. Is that correct?
Joe Puccio.
Oh, Puccio,
yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I mean, it's annoying to see these guys, calling baseball games at the age of 21, 22, but he's good at it. And absolutely, we're proud of him too, right?
Yeah, damn right we are.
That's cool.
Yeah, Sears was pretty good. I kind of don't look at their rotation that much because there isn't really that much there that I'm interested in. It's kind of older guys who look like kind of depth starters for the most part to me. But Thomas Bruce had a couple good outings. Yosber Sanchez still looks like he's got pretty nasty stuff if he can learn to control it. So there's some interesting arms down there. It was fun to see Dookie Haber have a pretty good outing. So nothing eye popping going on. We did see, like, as we'll get to, Dickerson and Wilson and those guys are now active. So that's kind of maybe more where the pitching focus is in the very low minors. But they've been doing a job at Lakeland for sure.
Yeah, it's a progress to see comparatively speaking last year with that roster. It's just, speaking of Blake Dickerson making his debut. So we saw some good numbers from Jonathan Rogers also. Gabriel Reyes was that guy that they signed a couple of years ago, right? Or was that last year?
I'm not sure. He was when we were watching the extended spring game, he was the lefty starting in that one. It's fairly pedestrian stuff. It's like 91 to 93, breaking ball, some kind of changeup. I think nothing pops off the off the screen, but a relatively young lefty who's had some success. I felt like I should put him in there. So like we mentioned earlier, Rainer Castillo, we put up his outing because it's kind of interesting. We talked about, when they signed him, we're like, well, that's interesting because they haven't spent a lot of money on international pitching prospects at all. And he got a decent amount. And again, he's still only 19. He's the same age as Wilson and Dickerson and Dunford and all those guys. And he was out there pretty easy, 94, 96. It dropped down more to like 92, 94 at like his third inning of work. And a pretty nice breaking ball at times, like low 80s, kind of slurvy, but threw it under left-handed hitter's hands multiple times. I didn't see much of a changeup, if any, honestly. And I wonder if he just can't throw one, or if they don't have one for him, or if it's too hard and I didn't notice it. Wonder if he might be a candidate for a split down the road. But yeah, some interesting stuff to go there. Like the fastball shape comes and goes. Like I mentioned to Raj, I was like, I don't know about that because you'll see some dead zone fastballs. They're like 14 vert, 12 horizontal, and then they go over the wall. But then other times it's like 5 for vert. I'm like, wow, that's a interesting like sinker there. So I don't know. He's an interesting player. I would encourage people, if you can stand watching 4 minutes of very busy Florida Complex League screen, to check out his outing. And the other one we put up was Paul Wilson, where I have some concerns. He was their third round pick last year, I think.
Yep.
Got close to $2 million. And the one outing I put up was from the extended spring game. So we haven't seen him yet in an actual FCL game, but the results have matched what he was doing in the extended spring game, which is, it's really odd because he seems to have, he's got 4 pitches and he's got pretty good feel for 3 of them. The one he doesn't have feel for is his fastball. It's everywhere. He threw a fastball behind a right-handed batter, and he wasn't trying to hit him. It's like 20 fastball command right now, and that's kind of worrisome to me because it's also like 90 to 92. So I don't know. I mean, he's very young.
And there were some really bad breaking balls too. Just to throw that in there. I saw a few get way away from him too. But
he eventually dialed that, like his second. So there's the Rainer Castillo we're watching right now, right?
And the breaking ball. I just was like, this is the breaking ball I was just looking at just now, not this one, but this one right here.
Yeah, I mean that's a get me over breaking ball. He's thrown a couple, like pretty solid breaking balls down and in, and like I said, it's pretty easy, 94, 96 for an enormous kid.
Pretty good arm action too. Like kind of gets the ball up late and really, comes at you hard right there, so that you don't have a good long look at it either.
And it's a pretty good number of strikes. I think he only walked 1 in this outing. I don't know. There's some interesting things there. Like I said, there's a 14-12, like that. But he's another guy to keep an eye on. If hopefully he can keep his body in order and it works in the right ways, and he's kind of maybe he's building up mass right now, and then can tone it up a little bit down the road and maybe even throw harder. I don't know. Just another interesting name down there that they've got a handful of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wilson. I mean, I kind of think of like I don't know. We've seen some other guys come up and be pretty wild early on, and you can go look at tape of Wilson from some high school outings and stuff like that, and it honestly looked worse. It looked worse than it did in high school. But you never know how much of a sample you're getting in scouting clips, obviously. So I don't really know. But I'd like to think this was a little bit of an anomaly. The early going here, like maybe he's working on something in his stride length and it's killing him. Yeah, he's got the stuff when it's right for sure.
Yeah, he definitely he's from the planet Arrakis from Dune. All right. What with the Harkonnens? Is that it?
Yeah, the Harkonnens,
like when Wilson got it together, he got it going. It was like almost all breaking balls and changeups, and he was landing them pretty well. But that was like his second or third inning at work, and just the fastball was all over the place early on.
Yeah,
but again, all right. He's young. These are 19-year-olds. Yeah, and there's a reason he's a third rounder, not a first rounder, right? Like that they think there's stuff to work with there, and I think there is too. It's just like I said, I have some concerns. This might be could be a 2-year FCL project. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But either way, there's just the thing to consider too is that, and we don't say this often enough, but age does play a factor. Like somebody's talking about, well, Campos has been there for a couple of years now. Well, the guy's only 20. I mean, it's.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. I think it's because the Ronald Acuna's of the world. Oh, there was
the fastball behind it.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I do want to.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Brandon. Sorry.
I was just gonna say. I mean, you've got to consider age, and you also have to consider like how much have they actually, played. Like it really actually played. Not he's been in the system for 3 years. How many plate appearances or how many innings have you thrown? Try to drill down into those things. It can really help you. Like Troy Melton, I didn't really see him coming or anything when they drafted him. But then you look and you realize he hadn't really pitched very long. I like that. You see how fast things have changed since they've adjusted his delivery, and there have been some major adjustments to Troy Melton's delivery, both in college and once the Tigers got hold of him. I kind of look for those things, like those trajectory things. Like, is he getting better? Has he already shown that he can make big improvements that he needed to make? And then, how much actual experience does he have? Not just, the raw age or what level or anything like that. It's always good, the best way, like if you're in fantasy baseball and you're like hunting for prospects, look for guys who, are super talented and were hot shots and then got injured their first year. And you'll see like they, unless they were like a first rounder, they're just gone. they just fall completely off the map for people, by and large. And then you see him come back. It's like, oh, what happened? And he's like, well, he broke his leg, guys. They tried him, but he couldn't. He just couldn't pitch through it.
Well, there is going to be. By the way, somebody asked earlier, we're going to be doing drafts. We're going to be doing some draft stuff coming up too. It's not only it is that time of year, and it's almost that draft is. Man, I'm trying to think of when the draft is right now. It's the
July 12th. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that does sound right. Yeah.
So we'll be doing it's July 14th.
Okay.
So Sunday, July 14th.
Bastille Day?
Bastille Day. Yeah, on Bastille Day. Yes.
How dare they?
So, how dare they? No, it's going to be. We're going to be doing the usual. I still have to. Oh, Brandon, you want to do the draft show with us this year?
Sure.
It's on Sunday. All right.
I'll try to be more useful than I usually am, because I come in late to the draft. Like I'm the guy in the final month cramming for the exam for sure.
Well, that's going to be me. I mean, go ahead,
Okay.
Chris.
Yeah, no, I mean, I need to get up a couple draft posts soon. That'll be the project after we get the top 30 out. I did want to just give a slight tip of the cap here to Fran Yerber Montilla. I'm going to go ahead and say that's how you say his name. Fran Yerber would be great. He's interesting to me. He was a 2-year DSL guy, which usually you don't. I don't know. The toppest prospects, spend 1 year there and come up and hit. But I think he's a toolsy kid, and he's playing well so far. It's the complex league, so you can't put too much into it. But he's just a name to remember. Like, this time last year, we were kind of like, this Jose Burseño guy is a name to remember, right? And Montilla is a legit shortstop, I think. So I'll keep an eye on him.
Yeah, definitely has a good shortstop build too as well. He's a big kid for his age. So, but I mean, it is weird to see De La Cruz in there, but I think it's more of like a rehab start or maybe just working his way back into shape a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I remember it's like 4 or 5 years ago now where I want to say he had the highest OPS in the complex league, and he's still kind of hanging around. So I don't know what happened there, but I couldn't tell you honestly.
Yeah. So by the way, the Dominican Summer League starts on June 3rd. I believe it's going to be. Yeah, I did see a date for that today somewhere. So that's what's going to happen. The Tigers, by the way, are picking 11th. In case you were not aware of where the Tigers are in the draft. By the way, I also wanted to mention this: the Pistons are picking 5th in the draft after the one. Again, this is what happens. The whole lottery thing. The Atlanta Hawks are going to be picking first.
I think I saw something that never before in the NBA draft had the team with the best odds or the worst record gone from 1st to 5th, and the Pistons have done it 2 years in a row.
Jeez.
That's somebody telling you something.
Yeah. Sell the team and start over, boys. I don't know.
Well, this is what we like. We learned this from football, right, and from teams like the Dodgers and the Astros, right? Like, you know what? I saw somebody else say, you make your own luck, right? Go out there and out scout people and find the right players, and it doesn't matter. Like you go, Giannis, Antetokounmpo or whatever was like the 11th or 12th pick in the draft, right? Go get the good player.
Good front offices and good coaching win out. Yeah, no matter nothing else gets in the way, and you can usually see it within a year or so. Like, okay, there's a lot going on here, and if there isn't a lot going on there, you should probably pull the plug earlier than most teams do. But it's hard to, I'm sure.
Yeah, like the Lions didn't get good from outside free agents or anything like that. They actually had a bunch of good draft picks and built the team. And so that's the way the Pistons are gonna have to do it. That's the way the Tigers are gonna do it. Hopefully, we've seen some good signs out of last year's draft. Ham, Clark, McGonigal, Max Anderson's off to a good start. It's been a so far so good. It's still very early, but you hope that's the foundation of some contenders to come.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of good pitching. Yeah, a lot of good pitching that they can work with, and we know that they can. So,
yeah, I mean, the lotteries are a joke, and it's not fair. But then I look at like Joe Dumars out of McNeese State. Joe Dumars, no one knew who Joe Dumars was when the Pistons drafted him.
Yeah.
Scottie Pippen, same thing. Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. Some of these guys were just like scouts doing the work. I mean, when Those are the type of things that you need to have. Is just to get the Pistons to draft Chris Middleton, and I mean, now
Trade him away for nothing.
Yeah, trade him over. Yeah, so
Mike Trout, right? Went in the 20s.
Dan
look at all those titles that he led the Angels to.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, harsh. And here's another just fun thing that's been going on. I don't know if it'll continue, but Joe Adell has been absolutely raking so far, and he's kind of a good example of like a post prospect guy that people kind of gave up on because there was so much swing and miss, but just had monster tools, and they just kind of told him to tone it down a little bit, shorten your swing, just relax and put the ball in play a little bit more. I'm sure there was probably more to it considering Ron Washington is there, but yeah. So far it's been, pretty cool to see him come around, and it kind of gives me, we've talked, we talked a lot last week about the Garco stuff and about AAA being, very different and very far away from MLB in terms of the pitching you're facing and stuff. So, things have changed, and maybe we'll see more guys take longer to develop and just need more looks at the major league level, even if they're unsuccessful. I don't know. I don't want to make too much out of just Joe Adell, but I wanted to trade for him real bad last summer. I was just like, you could probably just flip them just about any body that can, that can throw strikes and pitch a game for them. You might be able to pluck him away. So not that the Tigers would have necessarily fixed him either, of course, but.
Well,
I mean, the recent outburst, and the Fangraphs did a really good job writing an article about that today. Jay Jaffe wrote about him where he came out of 0 for 16 slump and is in back to what it was in April. So it's, you're right. It what was it? What we always say, Chris, prospect development is not linear.
Yeah, it's not linear. And and with a guy like Adell, he's just turned 25. So that's, I know he's probably younger than Kerry Carpenter.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
I think Carpenter's 26. Yeah.
Yeah. Younger than Akil Baddoo. So like, I don't know. We've seen it many times that Jake Rogers didn't have his breakout season till what, 28?
Yeah.
It's
Alex Faeda's having it now.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. To find your role. And
so,
especially seeming like when you don't come out of a good development org, it's like, that's another element to consider. I mean, I'm sure we've all had our favorites that you just looked at, like the Rockies couldn't develop this guy. Like, we should try that. Certain teams like that just aren't very good. Sometimes they move people too fast. I wanted to bring up the one Deadly Ninja Bees question that we kind of skipped over from back a ways, which is which pitching prospect is most attractive to other teams for trade outside of Job. Like if you were trying to get a pitcher from the Tigers, who do you want on the farm right now, other than Job? You want me to answer it first?
I think I would probably steal your answer. I think they would probably want Troy Melton.
Yeah.
I think he has. I've registered some concerns before about, like, I don't know if he has a real big league out pitch, but it feels like you can get there with him. He's got the body, he's got the mechanics, he's got the the pitch mix. It's there's a lot to like there, and he might not be ready right away, but he does feel like a guy who he kind of reminds me of a guy who's just going to take off in like his late 20s. If that makes sense. Like he's not old or anything like that, but it feels like he's relatively new to pitching. Over the last 4 or 5 years or whatever, and it feels like there's still a lot more to untap or unlock there.
Yeah, I might agree with that, but I also could see teams picking Ty Madden right now just because it's the most obvious. Like, this guy could probably help us, and if you go watch the two of them side by side, you're thinking, GMs that maybe aren't as smart are thinking, I could probably slot Ty Madden right in my rotation right now. And maybe they can, but it's definitely probably between the two of them. Maybe Jaden Hamm, if there's somebody out there who loves him and is willing to wait a little bit longer and isn't like trying to get pitching for next year or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, it's also the trade Manning thing. Let's just put this to rest. If Manning was tradable, you would have been traded by now. Simple as that. I mean, you look at the sequence, the sequence tonight. Curveball, just. Is he? I always feel like that's the number one pitcher that's always referred to. Matt Manning, Trey Manning. In reality, it's just. I think a team looks like I'm going to pick. I'm going to go a little bit off the grid myself, and I I'm going to say something like, Jaden Hamm, I think would be a good, if you're not thinking long term for kind of how you want to go about things. I'll go Montero, because here's why I think with Montero is if you go to an organization that's maybe more like last year, the Tigers realized that they had to give him stuff in Spanish.
Yeah.
So imagine going to an organization that's more Latino, like, not to say the Tigers are not Latino friendly. I'm not saying that at all, but an organization that has more of a Hispanic presence, right?
Yeah.
Where, I mean, again, an organization that kind of has like that kind of history, learning more and more. I think, Montero's doing really well with the instruction he's receiving, because they started finally speaking the language, so to speak. But going to an organization that does even better, imagine that. I mean, that maybe they see something with him. They're like, okay, you know what? When he's falling off the mound, this is what he can do.
Yeah.
Tampa fixed Fernando Rodney. I mean, remember Rodney all he did was go to the third side, third base side of the rubber, and then he was like, boom, automatic.
Yeah.
It just feels like the kind of thing the Tigers can do themselves now, though.
Yeah.
We've seen them moving guys side to side on the mound. What was really interesting? I guess I should have known this, but Jake Rogers, or I guess it was Tarek Skubal, talking about how Jake Rogers calls his games now. And this kind of goes back to the Tampa Bay thing, where they're just setting up down the middle now. They don't give a shit. Command is, can you throw it close enough to the strike zone without leaving it right down the middle? And that's it. It's not so much like we need a guy to be super precise and nail the edges and all this kind of stuff. If you don't have good stuff, you have to do that. But if you have good stuff, they're just gonna turn you loose. And that's pretty much where Montero is at, where they would just call him up and just tell him to just, light it up for 3 or 4 innings right now. And he probably could, and as long as, there's command of location wise, and then there's command of your shapes and being able to manipulate the baseball multiple ways and to do it consistently and locate it. And, if you can do that, even if you don't necessarily, paint the edges and all that stuff, no one cares anymore. So,
well, as a good example of that is the pitcher in the 8th inning for the Marlins tonight, right? He was throwing some pretty nice breaking balls. I think the one that Perez hit was not a bad pitch.
Yeah.
It just kind of dropped down into Perez's swing path. But then the one he threw to Torque, that's what happens when you throw a lot of breaking balls. Every now and then one just hangs right over the middle, and that one was screaming hit me. And that's the exact place where you don't want to throw it. But
446 feet later,
yeah.
Wenzel can go down. Wenzel's got the flexibility in the lower half and the quick hands to be able to go and nail a pitch like that, even if it's a little bit below his happy zone. But Torkelson, it's pretty much got to be there. Got to be there in the sweet spot. So, but yeah.
And there's one other guy too that, maybe he's not like a household name prospect wise necessarily, but somebody I could see they could ask about would be somebody like Mason Englert, because his stuff is so kind of funky a little bit, and maybe just figure out a way to weaponize him more as a closer type. Kind of, that kind of perhaps a little thing. And so like, just, I don't know. He has some stuff where like, sometimes I watch him in a game and his swing and miss stuff is really, really good.
Yeah.
And the Tigers have done a really good job of weaponizing these guys anyways. But if an organization's calling about Mason Englert, if it's Tampa Rays, first of all, I'll tell them like, F off. Like, you're not getting, what are you seeing we don't see? And then just kind of, like put up but all jokes aside, that's another guy who I think could be like kind of sneaky. I don't say sneaky, but if they're asking about him, there has to be a good reason why, right?
Yeah, if someone's, if you got a team looking for someone like that, or looking for like a Flores and thinks they can do something with him, they might get those kind of calls this summer for sure. I think the trade Manning thing is just kind of funny, because it's like, it's just natural that we always want to trade the guy that's not really that good for more than we can get. But usually the best way to do this is to trade the guy that hurts to trade, and get the thing that you need, and trust yourself to develop the other guys, to develop Melton. And, like, I don't want to trade Tarek Skubal. I don't want to start a firestorm right at the end of the podcast. But, if you're going to trade like Reese Olson because you trusted that, Montero and Madden and these guys are coming, you can do that. But, you can trade Matt Manning, but what are you going to get? Unless you're taking a teenager, you're going to get like another utility type player. And, unless it's a left-handed hitting shortstop who's a genius defensive, like if it's like a super healthy Alberto Mondesi or something, who I thought about yesterday because I was like left-handed shortstops who have skills, but I don't know what he's doing. He got hurt and tore up his leg last year with
Was it Boston?
Yeah, it was Boston. Yeah, and I don't think he's doing anything right now.
Yeah, he could never.
Hey, Scott Harris, go call up Mondesi to see what's going on.
Yeah,
that'd be a fun one to torture ourselves with for a while.
Yeah, I wanted the Reese Olson for Jordan Westberg. It was like that was the one that I thought might make some sense, but
yeah, that's good.
I don't know if either team would go for that now. But
the Orioles cluster hold on the prospects like a woman scared clutching her pearls.
Well, they're just they're kind of doing because they can. They're bringing guys up, and if they don't perform, they're sending them back down. They sent Kerstad back down and brought up Stowers. Kauser is kind of slumping right now, but that's the way to do it, I guess. Is you bring these guys up, and if they perform, they stay, and if they don't, you've got enough to replace them right now.
Yeah, they're so spoiled. It's like not until they find themselves under pressure and needing something in July that we might see them actually try to do something, but I don't know that they're going to need to. They can kind of just ride it and figure we're going to make the playoffs every year with this team. We're going to be a juggernaut, and if we have to make a few tweaks to take it the rest of the way, fine. But Mike Elias isn't the guy to chase the World Series. He's the guy to try to get in the postseason every year and figure they'll win one eventually.
By the way, thank you, We2, for subscribing from Tennessee. Yeah. We've been getting a lot of Tennessee, Kentucky people subscribing. Tennessee. Yeah. So there's been a lot of that too. It's been nice to see. Because when I look at some of the demographics at the end of the month, I'm like, oh, the South really likes us. So it's
I don't know.
Yeah,
they well, they like the South. They like baseball in the South.
Yeah.
A lot of the players are from the South. Yeah,
harder to find baseball up here these days, I swear.
And then we got one last question to come in from Colin Miller with the need at third. I know Gio's coming back, but when did Young get the call? He's been pretty consistent in the minors, except defensively. Defensively, he's kind of been struggling a little bit.
What's his in zone whiff rate?
Oh, all right. Let's take a look. Last I checked,
I honestly think that is the determining factor. He's walking enough, but he's still striking out kind of a lot.
So we looked at that a week ago when we were doing the Torkelson piece, and I was looking, and Kyle Manzardo was like 11%, and I think Young and Malloy were well over 25%. But I will check again right now because we can.
So that's kind of how it feels like. He's not chasing outside the zone, and when he gets his pitch, he's doing a lot of damage, and it's good to see. But he did just get to AAA, and it's second full year and stuff, and he's still striking out kind of a lot. And with the strike zone the way it is in AAA, the more and more you kind of take that into account. If they're striking out a lot, they're walking. Probably swinging and missing in the zone a lot, and that's a problem. That if it's all breaking balls and they just can't hit them or they can't hit the changeup, that's all they're going to see. So a little more work is probably required.
What's funny, Samuel wants to know: does Kentucky and Tennessee have a lot to displace Michiganders? When I was growing up, a lot of families from Kentucky and Tennessee moved
Nashville.
When they worked at Ford. That's what it was. Ford and Chrysler. There was a lot of people that worked at the old GM plants in Detroit or some of them in Dearborn. So now it's funny to see them go back, but anyway.
Yeah, I had a lot of family in the 80s, and we're all, it's all like blue collar Irish Catholic family, a lot of auto workers in my family, and a bunch of them moved to, it was either Kansas City or Nashville. And now that they're older, they're starting to come back and try to buy fancy lakefront property up north. It'll be more and more expensive as things get hotter and hotter and hotter. Yeah, I need to get that. I need to get that piece of UP shoreline. That's the chance.
All right, Chris. What's that stat looking like?
So end zone whiff rate. A lot of interesting numbers here. Jace Young is actually the second worst on Toledo right now, 28.7%.
Okay.
There you go. This is among players who have seen at least 50 pitches in the zone.
This is like the stat I've always wanted. Honestly, this is what I need to know.
Eddie's Leonard was 27.3% before he got hurt. Badu was 24.2%. Malloy is 23.4%. Bigby 19.6%. Valade was 18%. Buddy Kennedy 15.5%. Winsell Perez 14.3%. And leading the Mud Hens, Dylan Dingler. 13.2%.
Wow.
Yes.
I guess I haven't looked at the chase rate. That could be
I did
another
not
determining factor. Yeah.
You know what?
Did
Wait
not
a minute.
expect that.
You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
I haven't heard that one in a while. Let me look at pitches out of the zone. See who's chasing the most.
Yeah, I was gonna say he has to be up there, right?
We'll see. Swinging and missing at pitches out of the zone. Let's see. Oh boy. He's right in the middle for this. I don't think I'm doing this right, so I don't want to. But Winsel was the lowest outside of Corey Joyce. Yeah, I think I'm doing it wrong. But
That's all right. As long as we've roughed it out here, we're doing this. This is live radio, folks.
But yeah, the organization I think does value in zone whiff rate or place a fair amount of emphasis on that. So that's something to keep in mind right now with Jace Young, and also remember he only had a half a season at Erie last year. This is 6 weeks in Toledo. There's still time,
and 6 weeks is for new position too.
Yeah. A lot. They're putting a lot on his plate. He's still playing some second base, but yeah. So I don't think we're gonna see Young anytime soon, but I wouldn't rule him out. Rule out like him catching fire for like 6 weeks or whatever, and then coming up.
Yeah, or just needing. Yeah, if they needed somebody, maybe they want to give him a look. Maybe they want a Jackson Holiday. I'm like, come up and come see the clubhouse and see what it looks like up here, kid. Then okay, we're gonna kick you right out because you're striking out. Hey, Colin Miller, Ham is not Buck Farmer. No, his stuff is much more legit.
Yeah.
Not that Buck Farmer wasn't legit, but Ham has the potential to be like a really, really good starting pitcher. I think the breaking ball and the changeup have to improve, and he's got a long way to go. He's got to develop his command as he goes. But yeah,
he doesn't have he doesn't have Buck's extreme head whack and command issues.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. No,
Buck got there so fast though.
He did. I remember I looked it up. He was like
they really threw him in.
He was one of just a handful of pitchers to be drafted in like the 5th round or later to make the big leagues like the next year. So
yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, on that note, we should get out of here. We're gonna probably split the show in two for the podcast listeners. So this is part 2. So thank you so much for listening to the Tigers minor league report week 7 recap. As well as talked a lot about the Tigers. As the Tigers came back and won, they are now 21-20. So after 40 games, they're a game above 5. Well, after 41 games, rather, they're a game on over 500, and all hope is not lost because the way it fell over the weekend, it was just against Houston and everything. It's if you live and die by this team on social media, then I'm sorry, just go get a good hobby or something. I don't know.
It didn't feel that great to have Papa JV come back and just bully the kids again.
Yeah.
It felt like we hadn't made that much progress in a certain sense,
Yeah, JV's like, look, I got Kate Upton, I got everything. So please, thank you, Richard. By the way, I think Richard, Colin, we too, everybody who was listening tonight, please donate. So there's a PayPal link that is on the bottom. So we have a PayPal link. We had a couple of show donations earlier for people on Super Chat. All the donations go back to the website, go back to what we're doing. Eventually, I'd like to pay these guys. For example, case in point, I just renewed our CEO or it's on our website tool stuff. So all of it, and I pay per subscription for MLIB. MIL. See, this is what I knew was getting later tonight because I can't talk. So
let me just share the one little anecdote. I happened to go down. I was in the press box, not the press box. Well, yeah, I guess the press box. I wasn't in the radio booth or whatever, but I was down there yesterday and just having my breakfast hot dog, as it were. And Todd Jones comes and sits down right behind me with Steve Sparks and the other radio announcer for the Astros, and they get to talking about Verlander. And Jones is familiar with Verlander just from years, and he was asking, like, was he tipping his pitches against the Yankees or whatever? And they were like, no, you know what? He found out, he went through and watched and didn't think he was tipping his pitches, but he realized that something about his slider, it was after Stanton hit a home run off of him. He realized that something about his slider, the way it was coming out of his hand, the hitters were picking it up on immediately.
Huh.
And they said, but he thinks he got it fixed between starts. and I was like, oh boy, let's see. And then sure enough, I was like, oh yeah, I mean, he was dominant. And so that was it was just a kind of a fun little tidbit that I heard. The only other fun tidbit I heard was that the Astros radio or TV field reporter likes to eat sausage and applesauce. So sometimes you hear things down in the press box. You go, all right.
I guess pork chops and applesauce. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess some people love it.
It's probably not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, like I said, like even going down there, you go down there enough, you realize that there's people who the broadcasting community who don't wash their hands and they forever are just and I'm not gonna say names, but it's just one of those things where just like you just used the bathroom and you didn't wash your hands, and that was not the not your typical pee run either. So I'm just saying. It's just
Oh, God. Was it the Mariners who like dropped hot dogs by parachute over the weekend?
Oh, I missed that.
I saw this happening. Some major league team apparently did this. They were, but I just wondered, like, where are they dropping them out of, and how are they prepared? It's just like
a visual alone.
I just can't imagine like catching random food and being
but I just don't see like
fine,
I don't. If you're a woman, you don't want to look up and just kind of like this. It's just a visual that it can go down so many dark roads, and I'm gonna stop that right there. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. And our top 30 will be out later this week. So check it out. We'll be reissue top 30. Who is our number one? You'll just have to find out. For myself, Chris, Brandon, and entire staff over at Bless You Boys and the Tiger Miley Report. We'll talk to you later. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Excuse me.
Stay classy.
My wife, stay classy. My wife goes,
What?
The shoe comes.
Get out.
The shoe comes flying in.
Yeah, the shoe comes flying in. The chancleta comes flying in.